It's been about a year, so I thought it was time for a room tour update. For you guys who aren't familiar with the channel, I'm a huge fan of home theater and even a bigger fan of life-size movie replica and props. About a year and a half ago, I moved to this location, and this is an update video on kind of where I'm at right now. I am still a long ways away from finishing, but I thought I'd at least give you guys a look at where I'm at now. And as always, put down in the comments if you got any suggestions. I'm always looking to better the room, and enjoy the video. Thought I'd start off the video going down the stairs to the movie room. Now that was one of our first projects. We ripped out the carpet on the stairs and had it match what was already down here, which was recently replaced. And one of the first things you're greeted with is this Queen Studios Thanos. Now in reality, he's in a temporary spot. This wall and this wall eventually will be all Star Wars, but this is one of the least done areas so far in the man cave. But before we moved on, I wanted to at least point out this magical line that I got going on. On this side of the line, my wife's powers seem limitless. Pretty much whatever she says goes, but when she crosses over to this line, all her powers immediately go away. And that is the main reason why something like this happened. If it wasn't for that magical line, there's no way in the world I would have been able to do what I all did down here. So you can see kind of on the far side of the room is the home theater, or at least what I'm building out to be the home theater. We'll kind of go through each section. And we'll keep this video, I'll kind of go a little quickly through each section, and maybe I'll do another video, individual videos of each section and what my kind of final plans are for each one of them. Kind of get your guys' thoughts on it. But as mentioned, this is going to be the Star Wars section. And temporarily, you can see I have some of the helmets here. I've got a lot of the lightsabers here. And a lot of blasters also. And I actually have really nice lighted metal displays for these lightsabers and blasters. So a lot of those will be hanging here. I'll probably do the helmets up above, and then I'll probably build a shelving system, but one that kind of has hidden wheels for where I can fit up to possibly 4 to 6. But if needed, I can wheel out of the way in case I've got something very large coming down the stairs, because this does not have a walkout. But eventually, this will be more of the random bust wall. And when I say random, it's just like a kind of more of a one-off. So like this RoboCop will probably stay here. I don't see myself getting any other versions. You know, like eventually I may get like a Rambo. Right now, this Men in Black Rosenberg, he's kind of a one-off, so it'll stay here. But who knows? Infinity Studios actually showed off that pug dog from Men in Black. So maybe they're going to come out with like an Agent K or something to that nature. But you can see a lot of my stuff, I like adding props. And these were all made by Factory Entertainment, so the Noisy Cricket, Neuralizers, Agent K's gun. The watch is actually, I can't remember what brand it is, but this is the same watch they actually wore in the movie. They just chose it because it kind of had that futuristic design. the galaxy that was worn on Orion's belt. And Chewbacca will eventually go over to the bust wall once I get that Star Wars section built out. And then this section will be all Lord of the Rings. And as you can see, I don't have a whole lot of Lord of the Ring pieces yet, but the ones I do are very large and very well done. So this is the Inner Studios Lurtz. Just love the pose on that thing as well. It looks very, very cool. Now these next three were all made by Infinity Studios. So the Ring Wraith and Sauron and the Witch King. All really cool. And I've got a few props. So I've got like his mace hanging behind him. United Cutlery made a whole bunch of staffs and swords and weapons. Got Gandalf's staff there. And then up above, you've got the, it's getting a lot of reflection there, but that's actually covering a window. That's kind of why I got it so high. And then Queen Studios made this really cool Balrog. Now, eventually, this whole fireplace I plan on turning to stone and probably getting like an old piece of wood, like an old mantle to go across, give it more of a medieval look. And actually I got all the stone down there. It's just one of many projects that I will eventually get to. And then actually, let's go through this center area here. Now this also is a very temporary area. Eventually, I'll put nicer shelving, and I plan on having higher shelving in the middle and then shelving around it. So this will come out a little bit. And then on this side will be DC. And on this side, I'm going to put that Thanos on the higher shelving, so he'll be sitting higher up, and then I'll have the Marvel bust below him. And then this whole side section will also be Marvel. And then on the other side will be all DC. I actually have that huge Infinity Studios dark side. For you guys that have followed the channel, I used to have the Queen Studios, but I went ahead and sold that once I knew I was going to get the Infinity Studios one. So he'll be there. I'll keep Wonder Woman here. And then, yeah, I've got the Superman. And he's actually for sale right now, the Batman Affleck, but I've got the Nightmare Batman that Infinity Studios is making too. So that will all go here, because eventually with the higher shelves, this will be 8 foot across. And then down below in the 8 foot across, I plan on eventually getting the 89 Batman. Right now, there's really not a good Joker or Keaton or Catwoman. The only piece I do have is the Penguin. But eventually, one of these days, a really good one will come out. Actually, I think Howard made a pretty good Keaton, but anyhow, if Infinity or Queen Studios or a custom makes a really good 89 series, that's where that'll go. And I apologize, this middle section, The lighting is horrible. That is yet again another big project I have, is fixing all the lighting that I have down here. But most of these Marvel busts are made by Queen Studios, other than this one here. This one, I think they called themselves No Name Studios, but it is a very, very well done bust. And then on this side, those busts will actually be gone. They'll be on the other side. This whole side section will be Lord of the Rings. I don't have the pieces yet, but eventually I figure over the years, you know, some good stuff's gonna come out. So you'll have this entire wall, Lord of the Rings, and then you'll have this side, Lord of the Rings. And yeah, this is the theater area. As you can see, I've got the theater seating, but I still need to build a riser. Yet another project. But eventually I'll have pretty much the same speaker setup that I had in the old place, a 724 setup. So that means 7 main speakers, 2 subs, and then 4 ceiling speakers. So once I get my lighting plan going, I'll get the Atmos speakers in there and all the wires hidden. But right now I don't have really any of that hooked up. And then on each side of the theater, I've got my Alien and Predator section on one side and the Terminator section on the other side. And I'll have another video kind of going in on what my decisioning was on how I wanted to do this home theater. I mean, I did put a ton of thought in it, but just high level, I did end up getting a 98-inch high-end TV. It's done really well, and really from this front row of seating, you know, for movies and video games, you still kind of get a pretty good cinematic experience. But then I also got this 140-inch drop-down screen. So when I really want to get a big movie experience, I guess I can just drop it down real quick. I can drop down the screen and then have that. And then that 140 inches was pretty much just perfect so that it wasn't blocking the sound of any of my speakers. Otherwise, you would have to get some type of screen that allows the sound to go through, which for drop-down screens, there's some, but it's kind of hard to find one in that exact size and that would have fit in there perfectly. That also was going to be the right material. So anyhow, that's kind of the high level of what I decided here. And then eventually above the TV here, I'm going to put a floating shelf. And then I'm probably going to put like a fake stone on the wall. And then I'm going to have the Christopher Nolan Infinity Studios Batman bust on there. So they got the Bale, the Catwoman, the Joker, and eventually I think a Bane will come out, either custom or maybe Infinity will eventually do it. But anyhow, that's the future plans for that section here. And I just got these stasis chambers in probably about a month ago. I recorded some videos on it. I just got to edit them. I'll probably get them out there pretty soon. But I definitely was on the hunt for many years for a cool stasis chamber, and Deep Tail came through. These are really cool pieces. And then these are some MMA or MAA Golf Studios custom pieces, which are also really cool. And I got them on turntables. They kind of look cool on all angles. And we've got the Queen Studios Alien Big Chap. This is another MAA piece. Pretty disgusting. And I've got the cool props, Predator 2, City Hunter, and then some various props. This actually lights up, has a really cool lighting effect. The Master Replica spears. I actually do have a really good replica of the pistol. You see it being tossed at the end of the movie. Some of his med kit stuff. And then this is more Wolf Predator stuff. Sideshow ceremonial dagger. And one of my faves, the Jungle Hunter. I mean, by far, the first Predator was definitely my favorite. I just have some more random weapons and the tracker, helmet from Aliens. I guess I can show this off. This is actually the workout room. The wife and I work out about every single day, so it was definitely important to us to have a nice workout room. I mean, God only gives you one body. You need to take care of it. So this was actually one of the first projects I did when I got the house. We also like doing Spartan races and Tough Mudders. But basically I got this garage cart. I can load the dumbbells on that. I can pull out this workbench and then just roll it out or pull that stuff out here, and I got a bunch of workout videos, and that's about a daily process. But I'm really glad too that the treadmills and everything else fit in here. And then you can see also all the hung those up, and these pretty much have all my 4K movies and 3D movies. And then if you're really into working out, you end up collecting a lot of different gadgets over the years. So these other shelves kind of hold the gadgets. And then back here, kind of more gadget stuff. And then I got a kind of a big workbench here. So anyhow, thought I'd quickly show this room. Let's get back to the tour. Now in that room here is the office. Eventually, I'm gonna pretty much redo that whole room, get some custom shelving. And right now in the middle of that room area is a bunch of statues. I hate that they're in the middle there. That's just too crammed. It's hard to see what I really got back there. But eventually, once I get that room finished, all the statues of mostly Transformers will move back there. But this is the Terminator section. You got the Dark Fate Infinity Studios Arnold. Very cool piece. You hardly ever see these come up for sale. Not sure if they really made the edition size they said they were gonna make. So I know the company they partnered with went out of business. This is the Suck Face trucker Terminator from T1, based off the puppet that was used in the semi at the end of the movie. It actually looks just like the puppet. And this is Lewis from T2. As you can see, I got more props too. I like to display with everything. This Queen Studios T1000. Now you guys may notice, if you watched the channel before, where is my T800 battle damaged? And I actually did recently sell that. And one of the main reasons I sold it is I got a full life-size stage 5 battle damaged Arnold coming. So my plan is kind of like bookend. So on one side here, you've got the endoskeleton. I'm gonna get rid of this shelf here, and then on the other side here will be the full 1-to-1 battle damaged Arnold. So they'll kind of work as bookshelves, and then in the middle, I'll have all the bust. And you got the Frozen T1000. Not sure if the camera's really picking it up, but it's got a really cool sparkly effect. It really does look like he's frozen. And then you've got the really well done Queen Studios clean version Arnold. Definitely one of my favorite pieces. They kind of went with a elaborate base here, so they actually have a statue on the back where he's getting at the end scene of the movie, spoiler alert, where he's dropping into the liquid metal. And you have like a little lighted endoskeleton, then a little naked Arnold on the front there when he first came to the future. This is more like a zombie Terminator. Custom, they called it a T900. Then you got the arm and the brain chip from T2. From Blitzway, it actually moves. Pretty cool piece. Sideshow T600, Sideshow T700. Got the M56 grenade launcher and some replica grenades, which actually, those replica grenades is what I'm gonna use on the new life-size Arnold that's coming, because these ones are done really well. I think the ones that are coming are probably okay at best. And this is kind of there's really no good Sarah Connor pieces that I'm tempted to get. So I ended up finding reference to the exact shotgun she used in the movie. So that is what you see here. Then I got super lucky, I guess about a year ago, maybe not even quite that. Someone locally sold me this Sideshow endoskeleton. Very cool piece. In fact, the guy's collection's probably 3 times bigger than mine. But he gave me a great deal. So, super stoked to add it to the collection. I always thought the endoskeleton looked pretty cool from head to toe. And then this room that kind of jets out this way, on one side is the horror section, and then on the other side is the Ghostbusters section. And unfortunately, as mentioned, I've got all these statues in the middle here temporarily until I can get my office all set up. I guess I can quickly go over the statues here. So this is the PCS Devastator. Most of these are G1 Transformers, and a lot of them are XM Studios. So that's an XM Studios Galvatron. And this is actually the Queen Studios Hulkbuster, but Decepticon Buster in my world. Yeah, I'll just quickly go over. These are all XM Studios. I got zero lighting down here because why put in lighting if they're going to be moved? They're just a temporary spot. I got Optimus and Megatron. And then I've got a few Bayformers. Jet Power Optimus. Dark Side of the Moon. Megatron. And then this is the Grimlock XM Studios. And then you got War Tank from XM Studios that I thought looked very, very cool. It almost looks like a Transformer. I even added a Decepticon symbol to him. Now I apologize, it's a little tight in here. I can't get too great of pictures, but this first section here is my Gremlins section. This was the ECC Mohawk. Suckface Studios made this Mogwai. The ears are posable, the legs, the hands fully posable, and the faces can be swapped out. So that's one face, but I bought all the faces that he offered, so you can really change this guy to look whatever way you want. And he didn't make the box, but I thought he looked really good in the box. This was also made from ECC Studios. You got the melted gremlin there. Very, very cool. It's a custom Daffy. That one on the far right's Trick or Treat Studios. That also is Trick or Treat Studios. And then this is a Romulus custom piece. Guy like, I don't know, 8-10 years ago used to make them. Highly regarded. That's also Romulus. And then I found the exact arcade they were using in Gremlins 1, so I went ahead and added that. And then there was a guy in London that kind of made a half gizmo replica of Gremlins 1 that you can fit in the actual Barbie vehicle. So I bought a Barbie vehicle and bought one of those. And then the next four are kind of the Mount Rushmore, I consider, of horror, where you got Michael Myers, Jason, Freddy, and Chucky. Yeah, it's a very cool piece. Real knife, silicone hands. Actually, it's a silicone face too. I also kind of like that early 80s Critters movies. So this is kind of my Critters section. Howard Sift made this Jason, based off the Final Chapter movie. Such a pretty face, it's a shame to hide it with that mask, so that's why it's off. ECC made this Freddy. Another one of them. Freddy was my favorite horror guy. And then I also added a lot of gloves that were kind of different than his normal gloves. So on the third movie, he had the syringe glove. I think maybe it was the fifth movie that had the power glove, fifth or fourth. And this is the Freddy versus Jason, which kind of looks like a standard glove. It's just all built like a tank. And then the new Nightmare glove. And then this disgusting piece was actually made by the guy who made it for the movie. So he made it, painted it, so used the same molds he used for the movie, so it doesn't get any closer than that. Very disgusting, but very well done. And then this is kind of my ode to Dexter. So these knives were actually the same knives they used in the show.
other than this is a custom knife that they actually made for the show. And there was a replica maker on RPF that able to get that knife from, and I was able to use the same case and everything. So it's very close to what he used in some of the seasons. And then this actually came from the makers who made the same box for season 5. So they made a limited run of the same blood slides that they actually made for the show. There's Chucky. There's got a voice box in them, but I don't know if I can. All right, there we go. The Lost Boys, David. Yeah, very cool movie. And then Pennywise. Blue Box Hyper made this Pennywise. See all that shark teeth. This is their version 2. And the base is actually from the Prime 1 Studios half scale. I saw Flankster on his channel for his version 1. Pennywise did that. And this base is about perfect. So I went ahead and bought the half scale when it came up for a reasonable price, and then just sold the half scale and kept the base. And then this is kind of my ode to Harry Potter. So kind of got the good guys wands here, and then the bad guys wands on this side. And this actually floats. It's a little oversized. There ain't no way that was fitting in little Harry's mouth on the first movie. And you got one of the riding brooms, and then just some various props. A lot of Horcruxes and stuff. And then here is the sci-fi gun wall. And this is kind of for the random weapons, like most of the weapons, like if it's Alien or Terminator or Star Wars, it's gonna go in their respective section. But if I don't really have a section, then it goes here. So you got the Area 51 gun, you got Starship Troopers, up there, Sleepy Hollow's axe and sword, Judge Dredd. This gun, I need to do a separate video on it, but I was infatuated with this gun for years. Just very, very cool. It actually is motorized, so when you like press the trigger, this shoots out, darts shoot out, this thing comes up and another thing shoots out. Yeah, from Fifth Element. And almost everything on here is actually machined too. So yeah, definitely my most favorite gun in the collection. You see some Blade Runner blasters. So yeah, just some random stuff. Even got the X-Files badges. And then on this side is the Ghostbusters stuff. So I was a big fan of Ghostbusters and all the props they had. So you got the terror dogs up top. You got a really nice slime blower. You really don't see these ever come up. I was lucky that another collector sold me one from a very limited custom run that was done years back. And I've got Stance here. And I also have Vakeman. Now the heads were both made by Howard Simph.
Now eventually I plan on turning them into full half torsos with the backpack and their belt and holding the thrower, but that's a project that's way far away. But it'll look pretty cool once I get that all set up. And then I just got a ton of props from Ghostbusters. Most of that stuff was from Ghostbusters too. Here in the middle, you got Slimer. You guys watch the channel. He used to be hovering over my old house's stairs. And I got that's an Afterlife pack, which I got a ton of parts for to make it more movie accurate. But the other two packs I have are pretty almost hero. They're really good packs. That's from Ghostbusters 1. And this one is from Ghostbusters 2. I don't know. I mean, what's cooler than having a proton pack? What did they call it in the first movie? Like a nuclear device on your back. And then this is like an example of the utility belt that they wore. Yeah, the machine that was zapping the guy at the beginning of the movie. Ghost sniffer. So yeah, that is kind of the Ghostbusters section. And then here, like I said, these Christopher Nolan busts will eventually go over above the TV. She'll probably go in the random bust wall, but this is the Infinity Studios Neytiri. Sorry, the lighting's not the greatest here, but it's a really well done piece. Also Infinity Studios, and this is also Infinity Studios. And eventually, this American Werewolf in London will go in the horror section, but also very, very cool piece. This was made by Andy Wright in England. Does really excellent work. I didn't work directly with Andy. I got this actually, again, from a local collector. Super lucky. But yeah, I just love that piece. And then this is mostly Indiana Jones. So this is kind of the Indiana Jones section. And eventually, I hope that they'll make a really good Indiana Jones silicone bust, which I'll put on top there. But yeah, you can just see all the various props from Indiana Jones. Now those jars are from the Mummy movie. Actually, I just got those in probably about a month ago too. They're really well done. They're pretty much just like the same way they made it for the movie. And then this is kind of the random props. Like, I was a fan of Jurassic Park, but a lot of their stuff takes up a lot of space, so that's probably the only thing that I'm going to have Jurassic Park wise. You got the Top Gun Maverick, Rocky Glove, Anchorman, Sex Panther. 50% of the time, it works every time. And then you got Shawshank Redemption, the actual rock hammer in the Bible he hid it in. And then what he had buried in the woods for Red. Twister, the little Pepsi thing. Goonies stuff.
Kingpin, if you guys haven't seen it. Big Earn, definitely a hilarious movie. At least it's right up my alley, a comedy. Then yeah, just some various other things. Willy Wonka, Fight Club, The Matrix pills. And last but not least, right now, we've got kind of the Hellboy stuff on top. So this was made by ECC. It's a very cool, I think they really nailed the sculpt on this. That's another thing, I got a video coming. I just haven't edited it. Then you got the Tooth Fairy, which actually I've got an unboxed ECC Tooth Fairy in the office that hopefully I'll get to in the next month or so. It's an iconic revolver and his big baby, which was made by Sideshow. And this gun's absolutely huge. Probably kind of hard to tell on the camera. And then I was a huge Back to the Future fan, so this is kind of all my Back to the Future props. Which I do have a ton. You know, those time circuits, they work just like they did in the movie. In fact, the guy that makes them is the go-to guy for people that turn their DeLoreans into time machines. And then this remote actually interacts with these time circuits. So when it hits 88, it explodes, and yeah, it's pretty cool. And eventually I would love to get Howard, Simps, Marty, and Doc, and maybe have build a custom 6-foot shelf and then have them on top. But anyhow, guys, I guess this video did end up being a lot longer than I thought. I probably will break down some videos into the individual ones and kind of go over detailed plans on what I do on the section and see what your guys' thoughts is. But I appreciate watching another video, and until next time.